October 20th, 1944. Leyte Gulf, Philippines. Rain lashes the sea like shrapnel. The horizon flashes with lightning as the vast silhouettes of Japanese transports crawl toward the island of Leyte, the lifeline of the Imperial Army's defense in the Philippines. From the bridge of the destroyer Amatsukaze, Commander Takahiro Kondo watches the convoy's slow progress through his binoculars. Around him, officers murmur about the Americans retaking the islands. He lowers the glasses and smirks. "Let them come," he says. "Their so-called Mosquito Fleet won't sting steel." The Mosquito Fleet, Japan's nickname for the US Navy's wooden patrol torpedo boats, or PTs, has already earned a reputation in the Solomons and New Guinea. Built mostly of mahogany, powered by 3 roaring Packard Phi-12 engines, they can skim across the water at over 40 knots. But to Japan's battle-hardened admirals, they are a joke. Fragile, flammable, unarmoured craft that can be torn apart by a single burst of machine gun fire. What they don't know, what they can't know, is that hundreds of these toy ships now prowl the Philippine archipelago. At a forward base carved into the mangrove swamps of Leyte Island, Lieutenant John Bulkley, commander of Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 7, briefs his crew in the dim red light of the operations hut. Cigarette smoke curls in the air as rain hammers the tin roof. "Convoy spotted leaving Ormoc Bay," he says, tapping a map. "Transports, tankers, destroyer escort. Orders are simple. We hit them where it hurts, and we don't wait for dawn to do it." The men listen in silence. Farm boys, mechanics, college dropouts. Most of them barely 20 years old. Their boats are barely 70 feet long, their hulls thin enough to be holed by rifle fire. But they grin through the fear. "Wood burns," one crewman says, loading Mark 13 torpedoes into the racks. "But it floats too." By midnight, PT-490, PT-491, and PT-492 idle just offshore, their engines muffled. The smell of gasoline fills the night air. Bulkley's voice crackles through the radio. "All right, boys. Time to see if the wooden fleet can bite." The storm breaks just as they push into open water. Thunder rolling, waves smashing against the hull. The ocean glows faintly under streaks of lightning. Through his binoculars, Ensign Jack Farrell, skipper of PT-491, spots faint shapes on the horizon. Black against black. "Convoy. Bearing 230, he whispers. "Distance, 2 miles. The boats fan out, throttles low, moving like shadows. Farrell feels the tension in his gut, the kind that every PT sailor knows. The Japanese have radar, machine guns, and flares. The Americans have darkness, courage, and luck. As the range closes, the convoy looms clearer. A column of transports flanked by destroyers, their searchlights slicing across the waves. Farrell glances at his torpedo crew. Standby tubes 1 and 2. A second later, a Japanese lookout shouts from the lead ship, "Lights! Port side!" Searchlights blaze to life. The night explodes with tracers. The toy ships have been spotted, and now the battle begins. October 21st, 1944. Off Ormoc Bay, Philippines. The sea becomes chaos. White tracers rip through the darkness as Japanese destroyers open fire, their 5-inch guns thundering across the waves. Shells scream overhead, bursting in fountains of water and flame. Aboard PT-491, Ensign Jack Farrell grips the wheel so tightly his knuckles turn white. The boat lurches as a near miss sends a column of seawater crashing onto the deck. "Engine room! Full throttle!" he yells over the roar. "Bring us around to starboard!" The 3 Packard V12 engines roar in unison, their combined 4,500 horsepower pushing the tiny wooden craft to 45 knots. The PT boat skips over the waves like a skipping stone, its hull groaning but holding. "Range! 1,000 yards!" shouts the torpedo officer. Farrell squints through the spray. The convoy looms like a dark city on the water. Tankers, transports, a destroyer cutting across their path like a steel shark. He waits, heart pounding. "Steady! Steady!" At 800 yards he shouts, "Fire one! Fire two! Two Mark 13 torpedoes launch with a hiss and vanish into the black. The crew holds their breath. For a moment, nothing. Then twin orange fireballs erupt beneath the nearest freighter's hull. The shockwave slams into the PT boat, rattling teeth. Hit! We got one! The gunner shouts, barely audible over the explosion. The freighter's deck bursts into flames, ammunition cooking off in violent flashes. A second later, a geyser of steam rises as its boilers explode. The convoy breaks formation, sirens wailing. Japanese sailors scramble on deck, shouting orders in panic. But the PTs aren't done. From the left flank, PT-490 darts in close, its twin 50 caliber machine guns blazing. The tracers carve red lines across the night, ripping into lifeboats and deck guns. The boat weaves between shell bursts, closing to suicide range. Its skipper, Lieutenant Charles Red Drayton, shouts over the radio, "We're going in hot! Cover us!" PT-492 swings in behind him, laying down suppressing fire with its twin 20mm Oerlikon cannons. Shell casings clatter across the deck as Japanese destroyer Kuwa turns her guns toward the attackers. A shell detonates near PT-490, tearing a hole in its hull. Flames leap up, licking the fuel drums. "Abandon ship!" someone screams. Drayton stays at the helm, trying to turn the boat for one last shot. "Not yet!" he yells. "Load tubes 3 and 4! The second salvo leaves the rails. The torpedoes skim the waves toward the destroyer. Seconds later, boom! One strikes home amidships. The Kuwa's searchlight goes dark, her guns silenced. The explosion lights the sea like dawn. Flames reflect on the water. And in the distance, more PT boats are arriving, drawn by the radio calls. Like wolves circling wounded prey, they dart in from all sides, firing rockets and machine guns. From the Japanese flagship, Commander Takahiro Kondo watches in disbelief. The convoy is burning, transports sinking, escorts crippled. He grips the rail and snarls, "They are made of wood." An aide replies shakily, "Yes, sir," but they move like ghosts. By dawn, the surviving Japanese ships limp away towards Cebu, leaving a trail of oil and debris stretching for miles. Over a dozen transports are gone, victims not of cruisers or aircraft, but of plywood boats smaller than fishing trawlers. Farrell's PT-491 limps back toward Leyte, her deck scorched and riddled with bullet holes. The crew is silent, exhausted. The first rays of sunrise glint off the still burning sea behind them. The radio crackles. "Command to all squadrons. Excellent work. Convoy destroyed." Farrell leans against the shattered windshield and exhales. Not bad for a bunch of toy ships, but for the Japanese, this was no game. It was the beginning of a nightmare. November 1944, off the west coast of Leyte, Philippines. The tropical night is calm, almost beautiful. The stars glitter above a black sea, and the only sound is the steady hum of diesel engines from a Japanese resupply convoy heading toward Ormoc Bay. For the men aboard the Japanese transports, the quiet is deceptive. Food, ammunition, and reinforcements. Everything their stranded army on Leyte needs rides in those cargo holds. And yet, for all the Imperial Navy's pride, their protection is thin. A few escort destroyers, low on fuel, their radar primitive, their crews exhausted. At 2200 hours, the calm shatters. From somewhere in the darkness comes a faint rhythmic sound. Engines, fast ones, closing in from multiple directions. "Sir, unidentified craft approaching," a lookout yells from the take, the lead escort. "Range?" the captain demands. "Too close." White wakes streak the surface. Torpedoes. The convoy erupts into chaos. Explosions bloom across the water. Orange blossoms in the night. A tanker goes up first, engulfed in fire. Another ship's stern is torn away. Men flung into the burning sea. And then they appear. Black shapes moving impossibly fast. Their exhausts muffled, their hulls low to the water. US Navy PT boats, striking like wolves from the dark. Aboard PT-325, Lieutenant Bill Gormley grips the wheel, eyes locked on the flaming silhouette of an enemy ship. "We've got one crippled. Close for the finish." His gunner, Seaman Frank Shorty Davis, laughs through gritted teeth. "You're insane, skipper." "Yeah," Gormley yells over the roar of the engines. "But they'll remember us." The boat veers through the inferno, flames reflecting off its wet wooden deck. Bullets spark against the hull, but the PT keeps coming. Davis fires the 37mm bowgun, shredding the bridge of a Japanese cargo ship. Another PT-326, sweeps in from the flank, launching 2 torpedoes that hit seconds apart. The sea explodes. The target vanishes in a burst of steam and debris. For the first time in the Pacific War, Japanese convoys are being annihilated not by cruisers or aircraft, but by swarms of small, wooden torpedo boats operating from the very shores their enemy thought conquered. By the end of November, nearly every Japanese convoy sent to reinforce Leyte has been destroyed. Hundreds of soldiers drown before they can ever reach the beaches. The few who do arrive are without supplies, food, or ammunition. December 2nd, 1944, Japanese Naval Headquarters, Manila. Commander Takahiro Kondo, now haggard and sleepless, studies the latest reports. Convoy TA-6 destroyed, TA-7 presumed lost, TA-8 under attack by small craft. He slams his fist on the table. Small craft! They are pests! Termites gnawing at the Empire's hull. A subordinate speaks hesitantly. "Sir, the men call them ghost ships. They attack without radar, vanish before we can retaliate. Even our destroyers can't catch them." Kondo falls silent. The truth is impossible to ignore. The toy ships he once mocked have become the most feared hunters in the Philippines. That same night, in a swampy bay south of Tacloban, the PT crews celebrate quietly. Their base is nothing more than a cluster of palm huts and floating piers, the air thick with fuel and sweat. Engines roar as mechanics patch holes with sheets of plywood and bolts scavenged from wrecks. Lieutenant Gormley sits on the dock beside his battered PT-325, cleaning salt from his sidearm. "How many convoys now?" he asked the radio man. "5 sunk, maybe 6. Nobody's counting anymore." Gormley chuckles tiredly. "They'll start counting when they run out of ships." Out across the dark sea, the fires still burn. The grave markers of a fleet that underestimated the power of speed, stealth, and a bit of reckless courage. For the Japanese, the once proud supply lines through the Visayan Sea are gone. For the Americans, the wooden fleet has earned its new name, the Wolves of Leyte Gulf. January 1945, Camotes Sea, Central Philippines. The night air is heavy with humidity and the faint tang of gasoline. The moon hangs low, silvering the waves. In the distance, a Japanese convoy tries one final, desperate dash south. A handful of transport ships escorted by the destroyers Hinoki and Momi. They carry reinforcements and medical supplies for what remains of the Imperial garrison on Leyte. From a hidden cove 10 miles away, engines rumble to life. 6 US. PT boats slip out of the shadows like predators leaving their den. Their wakes glimmer faintly in the starlight, and muffled engines thrum like a heartbeat. At the head of the formation is Lieutenant Bill Gormley, the skipper of PT-325. His eyes never leave the horizon. "Convoy's dead ahead," his radar man whispers. Gormley nods. "Then let's make sure they never reach land." The PTs fan out, engines throttled back to a whisper. The faint smell of burning oil drifts in from the east, the Japanese ships still running their engines hard, unaware they're being hunted. At 0115 hours, the lead PT sights the convoy. Black silhouettes lumbering across the calm sea. "Range 2,000 yards, Gormley says. "Target the destroyer." A nervous voice over the radio answers. "Sir, she'll spot us." "Not if we hit first." The order comes sharp and cold. "Fire 1. Fire 2. 2 Mark 13 torpedoes leap from their tubes, skimming over the dark water. Gormley pulls the boat into a hard turn as the crew braces. Seconds stretch into eternity. Then, whoomp! Whoomp! The destroyer Momi disappears behind 2 columns of flame. Her bow lifts, then slides beneath the waves. The remaining ships scatter in panic, their searchlights flailing across the blackness. The Japanese open fire blindly. 127mm shells shriek overhead, exploding in white blossoms. PT-327 takes a hit near the stern. Splinters of wood rain down like shrapnel, but she keeps going, circling for another attack. The air is thick with smoke and the stench of cordite. "Coming in again!" Gormley shouts. The PT's 50 caliber guns chatter, cutting arcs of red light through the dark. "Hit the transport!" A torpedo slams home amidships, and the freighter erupts into a fireball that lights the entire bay. Through the flames, Japanese sailors leap into the sea, their cries lost beneath the roar of burning oil. When dawn breaks, the water is calm again, littered with debris, fuel drums, and drifting bodies. Of the convoy, only wreckage remains. In Tokyo, Admiral Suemu Toyoda, Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet, receives the report. His hand trembles as he reads. 2 destroyers, 3 transports, lost to small craft. He lowers the paper slowly. "They said wood could not defeat steel," he mutters. "They were wrong." The war is slipping away. At a forward base on Leyte, the men of Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 7 return from their mission. The wooden docks creak under the weight of exhausted sailors. Mechanics swarm over the boats, patching holes, refueling, wiping blood from the decks. Lieutenant Gormley steps onto the pier, his face smeared with salt and soot. He's handed a mug of lukewarm coffee. "They call us pirates now," one mechanic jokes. Gormley smirks. "Good. Pirates win when fleets don't." Nearby, the squadron's cook paints another small Japanese flag on the side of PT-325. One more kill mark among dozens. Above it, someone has scrawled a new nickname in white paint, the Wooden Menace. By war's end, the toy ships of the Pacific will have sunk or crippled more than 500 Japanese vessels. Destroyers, freighters, tankers, even cruisers. All with crews whose average age was barely 23. They fought in darkness, in typhoons, often without air cover or armour. Only speed, skill, and the courage to press closer when common sense said to turn away. When the guns finally fall silent in August 1945, the surviving PT boats are hauled onto beaches or scuttled at sea. Their wooden hulls, blackened and splintered, rot quietly in the tropical sun. But for those who fought in them, they will always be more than mosquitoes or toy ships. They were proof that sometimes the smallest things and the boldest men can bring empires to their knees. From the quiet coves of Leyte to the burning convoys of Ormoc Bay, the wooden fleet wrote its name across the Pacific in fire and salt water. And long after the last wreck sinks beneath the waves, the ocean still remembers the sound. The growl of 3 Packard engines, the whisper of a torpedo's wake, and the laughter of sailors who proved that wood could kill steel.